Alright, so here we are for video log 2. This one will be on chapter 4. As you can see, the rain's kind of dried up a little bit. The river is a lot lower than it was before. So there's a few things flying around. There's a little bit more activity here than last time. Maybe get a few good examples when we're going through some squirrels and stuff moving on the hills. I don't know if you can hear that, but alright, so the first word is mutation. So a mutation occurs when there's a change in the DNA molecules of a gene in a cell that it can be inherited by an offspring. So, for example, if the chipmunk on the hill eats nuts in the trees, one with sharper claws might thrive, and then that mutation will lead to the creating of the higher level offspring, because now the ones with the sharper claws are going to live longer, create more offspring, and that's going to become a trait. That leads to an adaptive trait, an inheritable trait that improves ability. So here we go again with the claws. The mutation could turn into an adaptive trait because now everything else all the other chipmunks have claws because it's easier for them to climb in the trees. Speciation is one species splits into two or more different species. An example of that can be the birds that are all around here, that are all flying around, and if one mates with another and makes another species, so a chickadee and a blue jay make a child, and then that's speciation because now it's two different species. It's no longer a chickadee, it's no longer a blue jay, it's something in between. Geographic isolation is different groups of same population of species become physically separated for a long period of time. So if all the chipmunks on this side and all the chipmunks on this side went separate ways for 7 years and then somehow met at this point again, that would be labeled as geographic isolation because this river is splitting the two. Reproductive isolation is the mutation changed by natural selection. So two species will form out of this. So if the chipmunks on this side are a lot different than the chipmunks on this side, say they have different skin types and fur types for different types of camouflage, they have different types of claws, their structure changes, as opposed to this one which adapts differently to the environment on this side, that would be labeled as reproductive isolation because based on the reproductive advances on this side and the reproductive advances on this side, it could create two totally different species. Extinction is where a species ceases to exist. So if all the squirrels in Massachusetts and in the world were all hunted and killed, such as the coyotes that I've been reading about, that there's been a mass extinction trying to get them to all die off because they're labeled as one of the worst, there would be an extinction as the entire species ceases to exist. So if all the coyotes in America got killed, it would be labeled extinction. Endemic species is vulnerable to extinction, so animals that are actually ready to extinct, or there's very few numbers and it is still depleting and there's a need to keep them alive. Background extinction rate, an example could be if we saw a increasing number of deaths in small fish in here that are slowly dying, but it's not really noticeable because it is such a slow rate. Mass extinction is when there's significant rate and rise. So if we were to go to an ocean and we see thousands of fish laying upside down in the water, we'd say, oh, there's a mass extinction going on, there's something wrong with the environment. Species diversity, the number and variety of species it contains. So the species diversity right in this spot is crazy. I mean, if you look right there, there's actually what appears to be a hut for a beaver or some type of water animal. There's chipmunks on the hills, there's birds in the trees, there's little fish in the water as well as water bugs that are escaping across the top, there's bugs out here, mosquitoes, everything. So that's an example of the diversity. I mean, there's numbers out here. I don't know if the birds are kind of being a little bit quiet, I think, when I got out here, but there's a few chirping here and there. a niche is a role species plays in the ecosystem. So that chipmunk over there may do things for the environment that are positive, as well as he may be a food source for some of the larger birds and other things that prey, such as little foxes and other things out here. The habitat is where it lives, so that beaver is in its habitat right now. I mean, it's the beaver that may be in there, or maybe I don't know what's going on right there, but it's their habitat. That chipmunk that's burrowing in that hill, this is his habitat, everything around here. So generalist and specialist species go back into niches, so the roles they play in a broad and narrow view. So I don't really know examples for that. If I could be given examples for that, that would be great, because I don't really know how you determine a broad versus a narrow niche. So getting into this one, there are no cards. Native species are the ones that normally live and thrive in this part. So the birds of Massachusetts are native. And I believe squirrels are non-native species. They were accidentally introduced, being brought down. I know there's something along those lines where the squirrel was not originally native to here, but it has grown very quickly. Indicated species provide early warnings of damage to the community or ecosystem. So, such as if we see an increased dying of all the birds in the woods and you don't see any birds anymore, that could be an indication that something is going on and there's been damage to the ecosystem. And keystone species have a large effect on types and abundance of other species in the ecosystem. So this could be labeled as the birds who prey on little water bugs and other things. We could see it as a keystone species because it has a big effect on the types and other things. I thought this wasn't down there. Types and abundance of other species. So if that's a factor, they would be labeled a keystone. Alright, that's chapter 4. Thank you very much.